Welcome to Workshop Studios, and today we're going to talk guitar finishes. So you see before you a number of guitars with a number of finishes. These two will look very interesting because they are unfinished. Those are two projects that are coming up. So what we want to do is talk about how we approach the finish we want for those two new guitar kits that we're working on. So let's start by zooming in here. So this is what's known as an acoustic guitar. This particular one's a 12-string, and the finish that's on it is a lacquer, a satin lacquer finish, but it lets the grain come through. You can see the grain of the wood nicely. Secondly this is an electric guitar. Normally has 6 strings, missing one right now. And that is painted with solid color, so you don't see any of the wood there. No wood color. Third kind of finish is what we would call sort of a translucent finish or a transparent finish, where you can see the grain of the wood, but it's clearly got a color to it, and that would be known as a wood stain. And then lastly, we'll show you this resonator guitar, dobro if you might. And it's got a combination where you can see the grain there, and that's more of a solid color on the side. That's called a sunburst. On these two guitars, they're both intended to be sort of mimicking the vintage that they are. This is a 12-string. It's like this one, except it's 12-string. And this kit is modeled after a Gibson ES 335, and the one I'm trying to do is a cherry finish on it, and it would have been known as the 60s dot cherry, and the dot meaning the little inlays are dots as opposed to something like this inlay here. So a dot 60s cherry, and so I'm looking for a cherry finish on that one. This one I haven't quite decided. This is a rockabilly guitar, Gibson rockabilly, so it's a full width guitar, very much like an acoustic guitar, just has 2 pickups on it. So this is semi-hollow body, full hollow body electric guitar, and this one we're going to go for a cherry finish. So let me talk you through how we come up with that cherry finish look, and it'll be the transparent cherry finish. So it'll look like this one, but in a cherry red color, trying to mimic what the original was. So there's a number of ways to approach finishes on that we're looking for, that cherry red. And the one I'm going to show you here is a water-based stain that comes from these fabric dyes. You may recognize them if you're into sewing or fabrics as Rit fabric dyes. But it turns out that's a great way to approach this question. But there are also oil-based stains that can be used, and can even be mixed into the lacquer that's sprayed onto the guitar. So we'll talk about these first. So first and foremost is that we're shooting for a red, and let me show you what that picture looks like. I'll put a picture of the original 60s cherry red that is something we're kind of shooting. So you can see that color. I think I put it right here, right there. So the color is going to be something along these lines, and what I'm doing is testing it out here. Now the guitar I showed you that I'm going to be doing, the ES 335, ES 335 12-string, is going to have, because it's got a flamed maple veneer on the top of it, is going to have these stripes in it. And so with those, we're looking to whether we want to highlight the stripes or not. And so that starts to enter into the equation. And to do that, to do the stripes, we use a black dye. I'll show you that real quick here. This one to begin with, and we put that on the wood to bring out the stripes in it. And I'll show you here real close. You can see there's the black dye that's been put on and then washed off and sanded off a little bit. This is a little darker version of it on this side, and you can see the wood looks, you can pick up the stripes even more, a little bit less. And then here there's almost no black dye at all underneath. So we started with the black to bring out the stripes, and then we went straight to this one, which is a cherry red Rit dye. These are really very easy to use. You can almost not overstain them. The dye sits fairly much on the surface of the wood, so it really can't stain it or go too deep. So it doesn't have splotches and stuff, so that's kind of nice. The oil-based stains, you can get splotches in the stain, but in this one it stays pretty even. So what we've done is put 2 layers of cherry on the surface of these. So when you look at these, it's maybe a little hard to see, but this one's a little brighter, and this one's just a little bit darker. If you wanted a kind of almost a fire engine red, you're looking more at this. This one's taking it down a notch, and it's partly because of the black stain that's underneath it. It makes it for a darker red. One other thing to consider when looking at these colors is the wood itself has color. This isn't a white canvas that's just going on. So we have to know that the wood itself has kind of a tannish color that adds into the red. And then on top of that, we're not going to know the full color until we get a lacquer finish on top of this. But because I'm not trying to get it exact, we're just going to get it to where it's pleasing. It's what I'm looking for, what is the color that makes the guitar look good to me. So if you're doing it and you're willing to not try to be hardcore and be exactly like that, then you can play around and find a color that you like. So I'm very pleased with so far. Now what I've also done is I have 2 other dyes here that I'm using to try and adjust, just do kind of little minor adjustments. One is this rose quartz. You can see that, which is going to be a much lighter color that comes into this and maybe lightens it up a little bit. Probably not, but it might. And the other one we're trying is a golden yellow. So that will basically brighten the red. So we get, instead of a kind of a darkish red like this one, you can see it in there, is kind of a dark red look. It brightens it up a little bit more. So there's a number of ways to go about it, and these are very inexpensive. They're, I think, $6 each for a box, and just mix it with water. It's no big deal. So you can have fun mixing and matching and seeing what colors work and what don't. The other thing I do just to make this easy is I use these forceps, and I have a little piece of cloth in each one of these dyes, and then I can just pick that cloth up and dab it on there if I need to. So then I just rinse it off in the water like that. So I'm pretty close to saying that I like, of these two, for that one guitar that I just showed you, the 12-string, I like this one the best, I think. This one's too dark. I don't like those stripes as dark as they are. This one I like, and this one is fine too, but I like the stripes a little more pronounced in this one, just a little bit. So what I'll do with that guitar is I'll start with the black and do an even coat over the whole guitar, and then I'll use a wet cloth and wipe most of that off. And then after that's dried, I'll come in with a very light sandpaper, probably this, which is a 400, oops, turn it over here, a 400 grit, very fine paper, and just go over the top of it and take off a little bit of that. It also helps to smooth out the grain that gets raised when you use water-based on the wood. On those particular guitars, they are from China, and although they are made appropriately, the veneer on them is pretty thin, so I don't want to sand too much and sand through the veneer, obviously. So I'm going to keep sanding as much to a minimum as I can, and to adjust the colors, by using wet cloths to basically take stain off. So, and then I can play around with a little bit of these colors. Now, the other thing to remember too is that the front and back of a guitar, sometimes the woods are a bit different, and the flame is only on the front of the guitar. The back is a maple back, veneered. So there are going to be some differences in how the wood accepts the stain and the color that it comes into. So I think I'll leave it at that for this video, and that's giving you sort of a heads up of how I approach getting the color that I like on a guitar. One last thing I'll say is that what's nice about the water-based stained is they are very superficial to the wood. And so if you do want to get rid of it, I could take this red and I could do what I've done here, and I'll show you. Can you see? This one was fully stained red like this one, and I've just sanded it off and gotten most of the red off of it. So if I really wanted to start over, I could. Now, I don't want to have to take that much off, but I think with this test case, then I'm in good shape. So I recommend strongly that you get scraps of wood that are going to mimic what you're trying to do. Experiment with those, and you can sand these off, which I did on that other one as I showed you. I stained it and didn't like it as much, so I sanded it down, and you can start over, so you don't have to have a lot of this. But if you can just get some scraps of these pieces of wood, that helps you to determine what you want to do when you're staining your guitar before you get started. Last I'll say is have fun with it. Don't be too freaked out by whether you're going to get the stain right. I like these water ones, like I said, because they are forgiving and they give you a lot of flexibility. So have fun with the stain on your guitar, and good luck with that. All right, signing off. Please subscribe and like if you so choose.